Yeah, this has a lot of burst, doesn't it, from Magden? Stay tuned to find out what we're doing. Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. Now in this one, I'm going to go through and just quickly show you the build. There is a follow-up video which you can watch for even more gameplay and a breakdown on how I do it in BGs, so do make sure you are subscribed and you do see that. Equally, if you want to see us live and just see how we play live, we do stream on Twitch, so jump into there as well. There's a link in the description. But as for the build, I am on a Magicka Warden, and this is a Vampire Magicka Warden. For my race, I would recommend being high elf for this. A high elf, in all honesty, is probably the most useful because we need that stamina sustain. We're generally in melee range as a warden. The extra Magicka is always great because we use shields, as is the spell damage. I then pair that with the recently buffed Atchnok Mundus, which you can see down here. This is a really good Mundus to have, especially if you need a bit more sustain. I'm also using the Vampire Stage 3, which is just really good. This is basically Mark of the Pariah as a passive, which we'll go through in a little bit, okay? Attribute wise, it's all points in Magicka. We have 36k Magicka, put on our major sorcery and stuff. 39,000 Magicka with our sets active, almost 40k, 1800 regen, 2.2k spell damage. With glyphs, it's like 2.6k roughly. Our armor goes up quite tasty as well. So we obviously have 20k and 19k. But that vampire passive means we are uber tanky, as you'll see in the gameplay. As with kind of consumables and what we're using for that, this is all on the live server, so a few things need changing, but I use Tri-Stat potions. They're honestly the best jack of all trade. It's health, Magicka, stamina. If you're out of any of those, you'll kind of die, so yeah. Food wise, I actually pair this with Tri-Stat food. So I'm currently using this. It's just 150 Tri-Stat food. It's dirt cheap. If you can afford Bewitched Sugar Skulls, then do buy it. As you can see on the live server, I am a bit poor now with optimizing my snipers. They will be on the channel very soon. But yeah, they have made me quite a bit poor, so yeah. Bewitched Sugar Skulls is slightly better if you can afford it. I would also recommend carrying some of these. They're just useful to have, as is the Corrupting one, just to update your Vampire stage or lower it as you need. As for the skills, it's really straightforward. We're using Crushing Shock, this is our spammable. Deep Fissure, this is our burst skill, and Major Breach, this is amazing. Flame Clench is our stun. Betty is just a purge and a damage buff and resources. It's phenomenal. Bird of Prey is Major Expedition, which I actually use an awful lot, and it's Mind of Berserk for just being on the bar. And then we sort of round this off with Northern Storm. You could use Meteor instead. I just don't have it unlocked on this character just yet. As for the back bar, Ice Fortress, armor buff, minor protection, what's not to like. We then have Crystallized Slab. This is phenomenal. I use Shimmering Shield with the current proc meta of people using Sheer Venom, all those kind of just range proc sets. This is amazing. If they hit you, you reflect damage back and you do 6,400 damage back. What's really nice is this scales off your damage stats. So if we're on the front bar, it actually does 8,446 damage, and we have Malakath for this, so it's even higher. So yeah, this hits incredibly hard. We then backbar Blue Betty once more, and I have Living Trellis. I then pair this with the Healing ult, so it's the Healing Thicket. This is really good. If you have the Restoration skill line, you could choose to go and use the Restoration Ultimates. I prefer Sword and Shield, just the passives are better. I need to get the passives in though, so yeah. But just an extra mitigation just for being a shield is really big. It's like an extra 3k, which is quite noticeable. But that's kind of the skills. You could, in theory, change Blue Betty for something else. Good options are things like Fletcher Infection. You could use just a passive damage boost, something like Mage Light. So in the Fighters Guild, down to the Mage Guild. Inner Light is really good, it's just free damage. Blue Betty, however, does give you slightly more damage overall, and it's free to cast. It gives you a mini purge, it gives you resources. If you spam it, which I do often in the gameplay, you can proc this passive, which gives you a mini heal. It's not a big heal, but as you will see, 979, 576 non-crit. I can get that for free, so why wouldn't I use that? And I have it on the back bar because we do need to proc this passive down here, this one here, Flourish. So when we're on the back bar, to normalise our regen and keep them both kind of similar, we need to have one of these skills on this bar. If you don't want to, you could always use the bear on here, just never cast it, just for that passive regen. Or you could put Fletcher Infection at the back bar if you really want. I just like having access to the Betty on both bars, just personal preference. But that's the skills. The thing that is really special with this build is being a vampire. So I'm a vampire stage 3, and why would you do that? It seems so stupid. Well, these passives aren't useful, that's not useful, that's not useful, but this one here, by God, is this good. Like, oh my goodness. Basically, this is Mark of the Pariah as a passive. Every 1% armor is 660. So 10% is 6,600, 20% is 12,000, 30% is 18,000 armor. If we're below 50% health, we get 15%, so we get about 9,000 armor. Effectively, it's not quite that, but you get the idea that this is basically Mark of the Pariah as a passive, which means although we look quite squishy, we're actually really bulky. And what makes it really nice is this means this shield is actually really big. So although it looks quite small, 6k, we put on our sets that we activate. Obviously necropotence, it's a given, it's a warden. But this is a nice size shield. And because we have access to undeath, this is basically 30% bigger when we're dead, or 15% bigger on average, typically. And it refunds most of the Magicka. It's 224 Magicka back each time we get hit, which means all of those negatives for being a vampire, the cost increase, we can kind of overcome that just because we have access to harness Magicka. So that is how I kind of overcome that kind of cost increase by changing the shield in order to gain the bulk from a passive, which means we can go with more damage sets, which means we hit really hard, as you can see in the gameplay. CP wise, this is what I use before we jump into the gear. Just pause it where you see fit, but it's a typical loadout. And for those people who are interested in a written version of this build, there is actually one on unifiedgaming.org. So what I'm doing is every time I post a new build, as of now, there will be a written guide to accompany it on the website. So do make sure you have checked out that. It's unifiedgaming.org. It's advert free. It's going to be like the one-stop shop for just PvP stuff. I'm working with other creators like Is There No One Else, Zidane, to just showcase their stuff too. But that's the skills, that's the champions, that's the key stuff for the sets. Really simple. We are using Torok's Pact. This is phenomenal. It looks really because it's not active on the back bar. So currently it looks really terrible. However, when we have it on the front bar, the set then activates. We are also using Infused to make it go stupidly high. This is almost 8,000 tooltip. So when you see me do light attacks and I'm getting like 2.6 to 3.4k extra bits on it, that's this glyph firing. This fires every other second, so every 2 seconds this will fire. It will work on Crushing Shock, adding like an extra 3 or 4k damage to it, which is stupid. This is honestly one of the best sets for Magicka Warden, and it gives you armor and health and armor, so you get loads of bulk on the front bar, which is always the issue. So it means when we buff up, you don't actually lose much armor being on this front bar. 20 and 19, back bar 24 and 22, so there's not a big drop in armor, which is really cool. I don't use poisons on this. As for the back bar, you can use anything you have. I just happen to have some armor master spare, so personally I would change this for a set of your choosing. You could use things like Potentes, which I do use, but the shield's another character, so that's like the optimal if you could do it. As for the monster set, any piece is okay. I'm using Balog currently, and how I can score it is slightly better. You want Magicka or Tri-Stat. I'm a bit low on gold, so Tri-Stat ideally. I'm just a bit low on gold. I'm using Torx Pact on the chest, and the legs, and the weapon, and then the hands. So it's 5, 1, 1. There's 5 lights, 1 medium, 1 heavy. You want the heavy as the chest, the medium as the legs. You could go for heavy as well if you really want. I'm pushing heavy because I'm missing some medium passives. And you can then go with just light armor. You want Magicka on all the small pieces. Magicka on all the small pieces. And then you want to go and have Trisat on the big ones. So chest, legs, and ideally the helmet. I'm just low on gold. You want Impen across the board if you can. I'm missing some transmutation crystals, so can't just yet. And for the jewellery, we've got Necropotence, Arcane Spell Damage, Malakath Infused Magicka Recovery, and then Necropotence, Arcane Magicka Recovery. I need to have 2 lots of regen just to overcome the vampire cost increase, but the mitigation you get from it is 100% worth it. So that's kind of how I set this up. I'm going to go through it once more really quick, just rewind it, pause it. Torx Pact Inferno, backbar set of choice, Armor Master, Blessing of Potentes, Sword and Shield. You can use poisons if you like, makes no difference. Balorg, Falcon Scoria, any one piece set that's decent, so Falcon Scoria is better. Balorg gives you slightly more heals, your choice. Chest is Torx Pact, shoulders is Necro, sash is Necro, hands is Torx Pact, gloves, the legs are Torx Pact, and the shoes are Necro. We then have Necro Neck and Necro Ring and Malakath. But that is the build. That's what I'm using currently, and this is just phenomenal. We, take advantage of the vampire passives. We get crazy damage, we've got crazy defense, and we've got really good sustain. This is honestly my favorite warden to play as of this patch. So I hope you like that kind of thing. As for kind of tips and tricks, I'm actually going to refer you to my newest video. So I've recently created a video on kind of how do you play in PvP, what do I do? I go through, pause it and stuff so you can really watch that and really get an idea of how to play this class, this build. So with that said, I'm just going to wrap this video up here. So I'm saying a massive thank you to all of the Patreons, like your continued support really helped me make more videos. So just really thank you. And if you want to get involved, support myself and the channel and gain access to the videos early so you can see what the sets are and all that stuff, then do consider donating on Patreon. Like literally, if everybody did $1, I'd literally quit teaching and be doing this full time. You just see how it doesn't have to be much, whatever you can do will help. Equally, liking, commenting, sharing is also useful too. But with that said guys, I'm just going to wrap this video up here. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, take care, and bye.